what happens when you purify your body, your mind, your spirit. Something miraculous. The body begins to heal itself. Welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast, where each week we explore new ways to heal your body from the root, igniting your inner healer. You are a medicine. And now, here's your host, Robin Stebbins.
Hello and welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast. It is me, your host, Robin Stebbins, and I am here with Ann Hince. Is that how we pronounce it? Good.
It is.
Who is a EFT practitioner. We're going to find out more about that and a lot more about her. So her bio. When Ann was 19, she woke up one morning to find her mother dead in the bathroom. 20 years later, the tears from that trauma were still just under the surface. So Ann found a simple technique that helped her release these emotions. But she went further and can now put her awareness inside her body. She's changed the bone structure of her skull and grown 3/4 of an inch at age 56. I'm very interested in this, at being 54 and wanting to,
not shrink,
number one, and age, not just gracefully, but, improve every year that we age. Anne has found that seeking out our truth when we truly feel and accepting these feelings is the key to inner peace. So you're also a public speaker, spiritual teacher, all of those good things. So and welcome to the Medicine Girl podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So tell me, that's your bio. That's a snapshot of you in that moment. That sounds really powerful, not just having that traumatic event happen, but being able to feel it and then transcend it. So you become more of a storyteller than rather the story. Can you share a little bit about that?
About the journey?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are incredibly powerful. And that's why I'm sharing my story, because I did not know we had this potential to be this powerful before. And now I do know that, and I want other people to know it too, because anyone can do what I do or what I did if they're just determined to do it. And that was one of the things I was so determined to change, because I had PTSD from growing up with 2 alcoholic parents. I was just on edge all the time. And I so wanted to get that inner peace that we hear about, but I'd been on this search for such a long time and nothing seemed to work. And I had this business altercation with a couple of other mothers when I was in my late 30s. And my mind just started spinning. It was just so intense for me. They were very authority type women, very strong personalities. And I was a scared mother on the inside, and they told me I'd done something wrong. and my mind could not stop spinning around what had happened, what they'd said, what I said, what I could have done different, all those things for days. It was like 3 days before I could finally calm myself down. And that was the point I realized, okay, something has to change, because other people don't react this intensely. So what is it? What is it about me? So that was really the start of my journey. So I was in my late 30s at that point.
Wow. That so coincides with my story. And I think a lot of people out there, you have these shocks, you have these traumas when you're young. And I think a lot of us, especially women, we're strong. It's like, that's not going to be a part of who I am. You're just like, I'm going to muscle past that and we're done with it. It's over. I'm moving on with my life. And yet it's not done, because you haven't done any work. You've just tried to muscle your way through it.
We've actually suppressed it. It's still inside of us, still stored inside of us in our tissues.
Yes.
And we have to look at it. So that's what I started to do. Luckily for me, I had a doctor's appointment in that time frame. I can't remember, when exactly it was, but I went to a doctor's appointment. He happened to be a holistic physician, so he had more tools in his toolbox than many other doctors do. And he recognized that I was more stressed than I should be, because I was a stay-at-home mother with two young, healthy boys. It should have been fine, but
Yeah.
I was so stressed on the inside. And he asked me on a scale of 0 through 10 what my stress level was. And I said 8. And then he asked me why. And that is when I realized, oh, it was finding my mother on the bathroom floor when I was 19. I'm now in my late 30s, because the tears were still just under the surface 2 decades later. And he happened to know this technique that is called EFT, which is short for emotional freedom technique. It's also called tapping, because we're tapping on our body as we're talking through something. And he tapped with me about my mother's death for about 15 minutes. And I walked away from that appointment being able to tell the story in my mind for the first time ever without those tears. And that's when I realized that we store those memories and those emotions physically in our body, and that we can let them go. I didn't know that before then. So that was eye-opening for me.
Can you share with the audience what are some of the other modalities that you've tried? Because I think we get this idea, especially in Western culture, that you go into a white coat god and they give you a prescription for X, Y, or Z, whether it's Xanax or, a procedure or something serious, and then you get better.
Right. That's what we are told. Yes.
That's what we're told. And I really keep hearing over and over and over in clients I work with and patients I work with. It's like, I've tried everything, nothing works. I'm not doing anything else. And I see just it's almost like the system is designed for failure, and people give up. So in you sharing that, I'm just trying to say, and I've tried so many things also that didn't work, but keep going.
Right, because there is something out there that will work. Yes. So I tried many, many dietary things, because my symptoms from all the stress I was carrying were mostly digestive symptoms. So I tried many, many diets, and things would improve for a little while, but then it would always revert back to the way it had been. But I also tried chiropractic and acupuncture. I was never really a mainstream medical person for some reason. I don't quite know why. It certainly wasn't to do with my parents. But I did just try things over and over. I got to the point where I thought I could cure anything with diet. And then I realized that actually I couldn't. I could certainly shift things, because that kind of shifts your vibration, changing your diet. But that tension, the trauma is still stored inside. It doesn't release it. And that's why for me, EFT was so eye-opening, because I realized it's actually changing us on a physical level. And it was so amazing to me. And I went home that day after seeing the doctor, and I researched it, because it's all available for free online. That is one of the great things about EFT. It's very simple to use, very easy to learn. But I have an engineering background. I have kind of that mind. I have to know something works before I'm going to invest time in it. I already had the one experience from the doctor, but I wanted to try it out for something else. And at the time, I had a 17-year-old cat at home, and his kidneys were starting to fail. And I was told I had to give him a daily saline shot, an injection of saline, and I hated needles. So the first time I did that, my hand was shaking so badly. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it every day, because it was just too stressful. So I tried it out. I just learned EFT, so I tried it out, and I tapped about every aspect of it. So I tapped about my hand shaking. I tapped about my fear of hurting my cat. And I tapped about all the memories from all the injections I had had as a child. And the next day, when I gave him that shot, the needle slid right in. All that fear that had been inside of me the day before had totally disappeared. And that was huge. Wow. And that's when I realized, okay, EFT is really powerful, and I'm going to start using it. And I did.
That's amazing. I find that all of the modalities that work are usually very simple. You can't monetize them. I mean, people try to monetize the EFT, and that's fine. But it's available to anyone, and it's benign. And I think that's the most important thing when choosing a modality, is that at first, at least, cause no harm. What doctors are supposed to do, but do the opposite. So, say the Hippocratic Oath. I call it the hypocritical oath. First, do no harm, but that's pretty much all they end up doing during their careers. Is, like you said, when you get on these other ideas, like, okay, I'm going to do acupuncture. I'm going to do change my diet. I'm going to eat the cleanest possible food I can. That's going to heal me. That's going to heal the stress. And all of this, that this whole show is about, you have to do one thing when you're experiencing symptoms: go back in time and find the root causes. There's always more than one. And so it's, you found a taproot, sounds like, with your mom. And that's a really big stress, that's a really big shock. But, you can't band-aid your way through that. Now, can you speak a little bit about what that means when you say you have trauma? So that finding your mother at 19, dead on the floor, caused a chain reaction, physical, chemical, electrical, inside your body during that moment. But most people think you have a bit of a hangover for the next few days, emotional hangover, and then eventually you get over it, and that's that.
Right. But that doesn't happen. We just store it inside. Unless we have, unless we know how to work through it, but most of us don't.
Right.
We just suppress it. And I certainly did. Our family never talked about anything emotional. We didn't have any depth at all. So I just kept it suppressed all those years. And it just sat on top of all the other traumas. I'd had many different traumas throughout my childhood, and I think a lot of us do. And just one was kept on top of the other. So it took letting go of the biggest trauma, which was my mother's death, before the other ones could be accessed. So what I did with EFT was, before going any deeper, I started using it on a daily basis. So I started noticing when I was emotional during the day, because we can actually access our past from our present. So if I'm really frustrated with something that's happening right now, it's just energy that's stored inside of me from frustration in the past that I've never let go before. But I can access it through the frustration now. So I started using it during the day, and I'd notice if I was frustrated or angry or whatever, and I would tap and bring myself back to peace. And things started to shift, right? I started to become more peaceful, less reactionary, which was great. That's what I wanted. But I wanted it to go faster. So what I did is I wrote down every emotional memory I could think of from my childhood and my life up to that point. And I tapped through one each night for an hour to an hour and a half each night, because I was determined to change.
Wow. That I mean, let's just take a moment for that. That is commitment, and I think that's when we heal, the number one thing we've done is we've decided to. So it's like, and it's usually, for most of us, it's a very circuitous route to find that healing, because there is no, here's how to heal, guys, because then you're not a good consumer or customer in the Western model. And it's a business, you guys. Western medicine is a business. They want customers. That is how the business. So once you know that, you can kind of extricate yourself from that system a little bit. But then, what we're dealing with is all of that compounded trauma. And if you keep going back, linearly and logically, you're also dealing with your parents' trauma. You're dealing with your grandparents' trauma. It keeps getting passed down and concentrated. So when you're saying, okay, the buck stops here, I'm going to end this with me, you're not just dealing with the trauma of finding your mom. You're dealing with everybody else's compounded trauma. So it's no easy task, right? And so I think we can get overwhelmed, especially if you're going to say, oh, I'm going to go to the psychiatrist. They're going to medicate you. Like if you went, let's say you're a psychiatrist, I would say, hey, Ann, for the stress, we're going to give you some lorazepam. maybe some Valium, maybe some trazodone to sleep. And now we've got a chemical cascade, which has now infiltrated your body and will now create a disease state because of that. So I've attempting to mask over the symptoms, like, oh no, I don't want you to feel stress. Here you go. Here's a prescription for that. Or, acupuncture, things that of that nature are great modalities to enhance the release process. But you first have to know what you're actually releasing.
Right. I mean, absolutely. Medication is suppressing, right? It's just another way of suppressing what your body is trying to show you. It's trying to lead you down the path, and we just find ways to suppress it. Maybe it's food, maybe it's alcohol or drugs or legal drugs.
Yeah.
Right. And it all just suppresses what the body's trying to tell us. And that, I think, as a society, we just do that. We're so used to it. I mean, even just the idea of positive thinking is suppressing the actual thoughts that we're having.
Yes, thank you for saying that, because that's the other side of it. It's equally toxic to only be love and light, sister, love and light, brother. Like, no one's going to lower my vibration. I'm just going to stay in this positive bubble, and that will eventually implode, because it's like, we're trying to keep this beach ball down underneath the water.
Yeah. So it's not actually a high vibration. That people who are like that are not in a high vibration because they've got so much suppressed inside of them. You can't be at a high vibration. It's fake. It feels fake.
It is fake, because that you look to nature for the blueprint. Nature is black and white. It is positive and negative. It will always vacillate between the two states. That's just how it is. Something lives, something dies. Something's decaying, something is growing on that's living. So in ourselves as well, that has to happen. You can't be in a positive, high vibrational state all the time. And I think that in and of itself creates disease, because you are disaligned. You're in a disharmonious state within yourself. You're not allowing yourself to hear the miraculous signals coming from your body. The paradigm I see, and it's in functional medicine, it's in naturopath, homeopath, it's to put something in your mouth to stop that symptom, instead of revering that symptom as this miracle that your body is communicating with you to say.
It's all external. It's looking to someone else or looking outside of yourself for the healing. And I got to the point where I realized I can do it, and we can all do that, but it does take work. Right?
It takes not just that work, but the commitment, because it's easy to spin your wheels doing something like going to the chiropractor every week, or doing your acupuncture, or whatever it is that you've decided, okay, that's my external modality that's going to keep it. Work means you are the only one with the answer to your problem. No one has any more wisdom than you do. Most of the time, anytime I'm working with patients or clients, they've told me in literally the first 5 minutes what's wrong and what they need to do. Almost across the board. But yet then this comes in, and it's like, well, I can't do that right now because of XYZ. You start to negotiate with yourself, and then now we're in another state of disharmony. Yeah. I'm curious what the symptoms or the stress signals from your body, what was that starting to look like when you knew you needed to address something, not just the stress that the doctor noticed? Or
well, I was very reactionary, right? I was jumping at sounds, noises, and I had 2 young boys. There were a lot of noises.
Yeah.
And I was really jumpy. And also I was sent to a boys' boarding school when I was age 9. It was my brother's boarding school. I was the only girl boarder for the first year there. A lot of boys, a lot of young boys, and they teased me mercilessly. So I had this fear of boys in that age range, right? 9 through 13. And I had 2 boys that were growing up So I knew I had to change the way I thought about young boys before my boys, excuse me, before my boys got to that age. So that kind of pushed me on as well. And doing the work, you know, one of the things, like we just talked about, one of the things that made me keep going, and I think maybe it was because I went back and did all my childhood and I did so much so quickly, things changed so fast that I realized, okay, this is really working, because my mind started to become peaceful. It's, you know, that inner voice that's always talking to us, and mine was always judging me, and criticizing other people, and I hated it. But it started to become quiet. And I had never experienced that before. I don't remember ever experiencing that before. And it was such a huge shift. I opened my kitchen door one day and I said to myself, it feels like I'm living in a different reality, because I'd never experienced a peaceful mind before. So that kind of pushed me on, because I could see changes happening so quickly. And I just wanted more because it felt so good.
I really am so excited for you to say that about experience a different reality, because I think it gets lost in the spiritual community to say, oh, this is 3D and I'm in 5D. You know, that doesn't make any sense. It's just more, I think, mumbo jumbo. And
I have a concept of that based on where I am now. I mean, we know what 3D is, right? It's 3 dimensions. 4th dimension is time.
Yeah.
Right. And when we're in the present time, we can get deeper into our body, right? A depth of awareness. So we haven't talked about this, but I mean, we mentioned it in my intro. I can put my awareness inside my body now. Literally, I can feel the connective tissue in my body release. So I believe that is what the 5th dimension is, but who knows?
Yeah, and it's just, again, it's a label for something. What I hear you saying is that when you shift something so dramatically, and you could measure this with rudimentary instruments, your frequency changes, not just the frequency of your brain that's inside your skull, your mind, which we can measure outside the body. The heart resonates at a different frequency. So what you are experiencing then with your lenses and your senses is now a different reality. It's physically different. So right now, there's over 1 million different stimuli coming at me. What am I paying attention to? That's based on my programming. That's based on past events, unless I have transcended those. So that to me is more,
they're stored inside of you.
Yes.
So if you let them go, they're no longer a part of the signal that you're emitting, is the way I talk about it.
Yes.
So you're attracting something different back. So you're seeing something different back. And the way I talk about it now, we still haven't got to the rest of the story, but I've released so much tension in my neck, physically in my neck, that I can move my head into different perspectives than I could before. So I can literally see from different perspectives, but I can also mentally see from different perspectives, because it's all connected.
Yes, it's all connected. And to also make more on the point of when you can go inside your body, when you are in that state, we are so miraculous, we are so connected, so within as without. I can go in and close my eyes and visualize going through either like the esophagus. I will see it. It's not, I'm not creating it. It's like I close my eyes and I can see the tube, or I can see, blood, different things. It's not in perfect clarity, but it's the feeling. And then I'll just say, show me what needs healing, show me where to go. And you can go to that place and either send love or whatever it is. It's just all based on intuition, your body's wisdom. How can you aid yourself in your own healing?
Yeah, your body is showing you the way. It will do that.
Yes.
Once we get to the place that we can realize that's what's happening and accept it and follow it.
Accept it and follow it. And I think that's something I would like to have you speak to, if you're willing, is getting, what does that look like to listen to your body's signals, to listen to your wisdom. Most people that initially I work with can't even feel their big toe. They don't even have awareness past about right here.
Right. And that, to me, that was part of the journey. When I started out, I didn't have a lot of awareness. I didn't know how I felt. You know, someone asked me, how are you feeling today, Anne? I'd always say the same because I was kind of afraid of actually feeling. So it took the work with EFT, right? Going through my whole childhood and just releasing that allowed like my outer layers of armor to dissolve, dissipate. And so I was able to become aware of how I felt. Right. So that's a deeper level of awareness. And I became aware of my emotions, which happens with EFT. That's part of the process. But then there's a deeper layer still. And that is the physical sensations underneath the emotions. Right. So if we're feeling frustration, we're feeling it somewhere in our body. I can feel tension across my solar plexus when I'm frustrated. Now, I wasn't aware of that, right? Some of your clients are not aware of that. To begin with, it took doing that work with EFT to become aware at that deeper level. And then at that point, I actually didn't need to use EFT because I'd been in the group at the time, and the kind of the guru in the group, every week he said, it's all about feeling your feelings. You don't have to meditate. It's all about feeling your feelings. But at the beginning of the group, when I started in that group, I hadn't done any of the EFT work, so I had no idea how I felt. But as the weeks went on, and he said this every week, I did more and more EFT, and I got to the place that I could feel my feelings. So then if I felt an emotion, I would just sit in it. I would just feel it. I would feel that tension. Maybe it's frustration, it's tension across my solar plexus. I would feel it. Just sit with it. It's really hard to put into words, but you're focusing on that tension itself.
Yes.
And just allowing it, not trying to change it in any way, just accepting it the way it is. And then it would shift, it would dissipate a little bit. And I would do it over and over again with the same thought, right? Maybe it's I'm afraid of making a phone call, which would be fear. And I could feel that as tension in my chest. I would think the thought, feel the fear, let it dissipate a bit, then think the thought again, feel it again, let it dissipate. So I would do it over and over again until the fear had gone, and then I could make the phone call.
Yeah, that's interesting. And no, you weren't tapping at that point.
No, because I didn't feel like I needed to. Tapping is a great first step because it gets you in touch with how you're feeling through words, through stories. Because it's all connected, right? Those stories, the memories that we can put into words, we're really just putting the tension that we're feeling to words. So with EFT, we're kind of going backwards through the words to the tension in the body.
It's the meaning that you assign to that event and the meaning that you made it mean about who you are as a person, or, you know, you're traumatized, or something's wrong.
Yeah, or that feeling that we're having reminds me of, you know, some trauma that I had. We're just really translating that feeling in the body into words. So EFT is reversing that. We're tapping through the words and releasing that tension that's stored in the body. And as you do that, the awareness expands and you become aware at a deeper level of maybe those physical sensations.
Well, I can kind of hear right now the audience. My audience is a lot of my patients, a lot of people that are really committed to healing their body from within without any, you know, major interventions. So I can hear the fear, the protest of when you have so much concentrated emotion. And I'm one of them. You know, I grew up in a family where emotions were deemed as wrong. And I was adopted, and my emotional range was gigantic. And their emotional range was like, they made Mr. Spock look emotional. So I was seen as just insane. And so I just desperately wanted to control my emotions. Like, how do they do it? I don't know how to. And so I would, concentrate and numb myself in various ways. And really, at the time, it was the best I knew to do. But with food and marijuana and alcohol, started drinking when I was 11. I thought, oh, this is a solution. Because now all I have to deal with is the effects of these substances. And I wasn't drinking a lot, but it was just enough to like numb out. So whatever it would take to numb out, I thought, oh, nirvana, I figured this out. So let's fast forward now. I'm 35, I'm now 40, 45, still running. And I've got not just the last trauma to deal with, but every single emotion that I hadn't felt for the last 40 something years, concentrated. And it's like, okay, why bother? This is too much. So audience, if you're feeling that way too, like you've had, it's just too much. Can you speak to that? Just starting to loosen those threads so that you can start feeling into the heavy emotions.
Well, one of the things that really helped me along the way was when I realized that emotions are simply energy that's been stuck in the body. That's really all it is. We don't have to attach to it, although we feel like we are attached to it. It's really just stuck energy. All we've got to do is find a way to release it, right? Because you don't have the same memories that I have, right? It's only in my body, and it's just stuck energy, right? So something like EFT will release that energy, and those tears or the emotions will end, right? They're not going to stay forever. They will release and move on. But it sometimes takes having an experience to believe it, right? I had to have that experience at the doctor's office and then with the cat, right? To see that, oh, all that fear of giving that cat that injection, I was shaking. It was so intense. And the next day, I don't remember how long I tapped about it, maybe half an hour. The next day, it was no longer inside of my body. It had just gone. So to experience that with one thing makes you believe, okay, it happened with that, so it's going to happen with everything else too.
So and it's then like building a muscle, right? So you don't go to the gym and try and bench 250 pounds. Nobody would do that. You would
start with something simple, right? I mean, I wouldn't start with my mother's death just because that was such a big thing. I would start with something simple, like being afraid of making a phone call. Right? Just try it with something and start to realize that it works, right? And believe it. And then if you can get in your head that really the emotions are simply energy that's stuck in the body, you don't have to be afraid, because there is an end to them. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, and it is hard to go through all those traumas, but that is the dis-ease. So let me go to the last step of my story, because it became so clear to me at that point. So I was doing this feeling the feelings. That's what I call feeling the feelings, just living inside of all these stuck emotions. So I would do, after I'd done my childhood, which I did with EFT, I kind of didn't want to do that again. So I did collective traumas at that point. I did things like 9/11, like the Loma Prieta earthquake I was in, kind of those things. And I would just lie on the sofa and just allow those emotions to come up and be felt and released. And it got to the place that one day I realized, okay, once I had focused on this tension I was working my abdomen at the time, I felt it. I was just feeling the tension and letting it dissipate. And normally when it would dissipate, my mind would pop out of my body and I'd think about the next thing and then feel it again. But one time, my mind didn't pop out of my body. My awareness didn't pop out. It stayed inside, and I realized I'm putting my awareness inside my body. I wasn't on the outside feeling the tension. I was literally inside, and it felt different. So I knew something was different, and I moved my awareness around. I could move it around, and I could find a place with tension or no tension. So I would do the same thing. I would focus on the tension, just allow it to be felt, and I would feel a shift. And then I just started playing with it because it felt really good, right? It's really old tension. I'm letting go. It's got to feel good. And it took many, many months, but eventually I got my awareness inside my head, which was huge because I had so much pain and tension inside my left cheek. It was unbearable, but I realized it had been there my whole life. 50 years. I was born with my right foot up against my right shin, kind of twisted my whole body. And I think maybe that's where it began, in my left cheek. I'm not sure because it's all connected, but it was so intense. But now I had the tools so I could just focus on it, allow it to release, go on about my day, then do it again and again and again. And it got to the place that I could actually feel things shift. I actually heard and felt something release, which was a little scary, right? Kind of more scary than going through those emotions. It's like, am I damaging myself? But I researched at that point and realized it's the adhesions in the connective tissue were actually releasing, and it sounded and it felt like old fabric ripping. I could actually hear it with my ears because I'm in my head, I'm close to my ears. So I would just do this over and over again, and actually got to the place that I knew my bones were shifting. I could feel them relax. And I realized how much tension that I had been holding that I had no awareness of for all those years. And now I believe it's all that programming. It's all the trauma that we've gone through in our life, and it's held physically on a body, and we are not aware of it. So it takes going deeper, right? Feeling at a deeper level, accepting at a deeper and deeper level to allow it to release. And I can't remember why I started telling you about that. There was a reason.
That's really dramatic. And I think it's so important for people to realize that when we're saying that you're storing this trauma inside your body, it is a physical storage. It's not dis-ease.
Yes. It's dis-ease, right? I can actually feel it. And I know that tension, this is where we were going. I know that tension that is stored inside started out with things that happened that we might not realize. It is physically stored in the body, and I can sense it as darkness. And once I release the darkness, once I release the tension, it's light underneath.
Yes.
So all we have to do is find that darkness, find the tension, the dis-ease, the traumas, the programming, and release it. And then our whole body relaxes.
Brilliant. The programming too, I think, is so important to mention, in that we are programmed from birth to store our trauma, because in this model of and it's not just Western, it's global, where we have a desire for money or success or some way. It's, you have to sell a piece of your soul, usually, if you're not doing something you love for money or during your time, to then pay the bills or do whatever. And it creates this misalignment. It creates, you're outside of yourself. So, and I can't remember where I was going with that, but the physical manifestation inside the body has to be released with a physical release, because they can measure it in the fascia. I don't know if people have had the experience, like maybe you've gone to a massage therapist and they hit a part of your body and you come up with a memory. The memory comes flooding in. Like, that's where that memory has been stored inside the body. I was getting a massage on my neck, and I had forgotten about a traffic accident that I was in where I broke the windshield with my face. But that came out, and you don't hold it. I think the reason I said that is our programming is to hold on to it. We're afraid to release it because we're so programmed to keep everything in, be a good person. You don't be emotional. Don't be angry. Don't look weird. Go to the doctor and talk about this with a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So when we're talking about releasing this, it's a physical release of something actual. And when you said you heard it, that it's almost like that tearing sound, you are changing the structure of your body. I don't know if you've followed Dr. Tom Cowan. Do you know who that is?
I do, yes.
So he's now kind of questioning, are we actually made of cells? Are we looking at when a organ starts to break down, what we're seeing on the edge is cellular debris as it's sloughing it off. But all of this that I am and that you are is just a structured water, electrically harmonized within itself. So it doesn't mean like, okay, it's sometimes you can find the meaning and it's a left arm that was this trauma or that, but just find that place in the body where it is to be able to release it. What is your process to finding that trauma? Do you scan?
It is somewhat akin to a scan. I go inside, okay, where's the most tension? Like that's my body telling me what needs to be worked on next. And still for me to this day, it's mostly my left cheek. And that's where the pain is. So I will focus on it. But that's not where the release happens. It will often be the right side of my neck, or it might be something further down. But my body took me to my left cheek to feel it. That's where the pain, that's where it's asking for attention. So I'm giving it tension. I'm holding my focused attention on it. And as I do that, it's getting what it needs, right? It's getting heard, it's getting listened to, and then it will release where it needs to release. And then I do it again. I do it again.
Your body will have that wisdom. Your body you'll say, show me where the tension is. You put the awareness, the love, the compassion. That's all you need to do is the awareness, tension.
Right. Yeah. I don't call it love or compassion because that in some ways, some people think that's trying to do something to it.
Okay.
I'm not trying to do anything to it. I'm just accepting it exactly as it is.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful because you're not working. You're not overriding the body's wisdom and the miraculous capacity of it to say, okay, here's what's happening.
It's like if you've got a friend who's gone through some traumatic thing and they want someone to listen to. If we listen to it, we just listen to it. We don't try and fix anything that happened or tell them to do something different. Mm-hmm. We just listen to them. And there's relief, right? They're relieved at the end of that. That's all we're doing. We're just...
That's it.
Yeah.
See, I call it the ICU clinic instead of intensive care unit. It's just, I see you. You're valuable. And I'm going to listen to you.
Yes. And that's just the stuck energy, right? It's just not had that before. We didn't give it that attention at the time. It just got stuck inside. So now we're giving it the attention that it wanted. And it will release.
You make it sound so simple. You have broken this down. I'm 54. Of all the books I've read, thousands and thousands of podcasts and books on tape, trying to kind of put it all together, pan out far enough, like what really truly heals people. And it's easy to make it complicated because that seems like, oh, it's got to be this complicated thing like tuning forks and acupuncture and some herbs. And that's where people quit. Like, forget it. I'm going back to my fifth of whiskey and Jack in the Box because it seems overwhelming. And when we're overwhelmed, what do? We shut down. And then whatever was happening is now closed. And now we're back to spending all our energy continuing to suppress all of our trauma and stored tension and emotions in the body.
Yeah. And it all comes down to what I said in my intro, right? That one line, it's all about acceptance at every step of the way.
Wow. That's beautiful. Can you take us on maybe a little bit of a tapping?
Sure. I mean, it's very simple. Okay. And there are a lot of scripts out there, like on the internet, if you search, a lot of people have scripts to use. It's okay. It can help. It's not as powerful as using your own words, right? So even though we'll just do a little example now, your words, the words you would use, or your language even, right? The language you grew up with, it's going to be much more powerful for you than using my words.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're so in alignment. That is, I always say that. They ask, people will ask, what should I eat? What does your body want you to eat? No, don't go paleo, keto, blah, 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 blah. Same with this, same with healing your body. It's your wisdom. Your body knows how to heal itself. It is miraculous. We will never understand it. It is beyond comprehension. So it's like, step back, don't interfere, and let it do its magic.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I have some words that are slightly different from the words out there in general. So if you know EFT already, then be open to something a little different. And I use these words because the original wording has I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And so many people have resistance to that. Sometimes they can't even work on what they're trying to work on because they have so much resistance to that phrase. So I've changed that phrase. So let's just work on stress.
Everybody's got stress.
Okay, so you start out and you tap on the side of your hand, what's called the karate chop point on the side of your hand. And you say these words, even though I'm feeling stressed right now.
Even though I'm feeling stressed right now.
That's my truth in this moment.
That's my truth in this moment.
And it's okay that I'm feeling stressed.
And it's okay that I'm feeling stressed.
Even though I'm feeling stressed right now.
Even though I'm feeling stressed right now.
That's my truth in this moment.
That is my truth in this moment.
And it's okay that I'm feeling stressed.
And it's okay that I'm feeling stressed.
Even though I'm feeling a little stressed right now.
Even though I'm feeling a little stressed right now.
Or even a lot stressed.
Or even a lot stressed.
That's my truth in this moment.
That's my truth in this moment.
And it's okay that I'm feeling stressed.
It's okay that I'm feeling stressed.
And then we move to the crown points, the top of the head, and tap, just tap as we're saying it. Tap, you might be able to hear me through the microphone, I'm not sure. But tap fairly firmly because you are changing something in the body, but don't hurt yourself. Okay, and you just shorten what you say here. So I'm feeling stressed.
I'm feeling stressed.
I'm feeling stressed.
I'm feeling stressed.
Okay, then move to the next point, which is the beginning of the eyebrow. I'm feeling stressed.
I'm feeling stressed.
And then to the bone on the edge of the eye. I'm feeling stressed.
I'm feeling stressed.
Then the bone under the eye. I'm feeling stressed.
I'm feeling stressed.
Then on the upper lip under the nose. I'm feeling stressed.
I'm feeling stressed.
Then on the chin, I'm feeling stressed.
I'm feeling stressed.
And on the collarbones, I'm feeling stressed.
I'm feeling stressed.
And then under the arm where your bra strap goes across, if you have one, I'm feeling stressed.
I'm feeling stressed.
Okay, then take a deep breath. Let it out. And that is one round of EFT. Now, if you're still feeling stress, do another round and do another round. Maybe change the word slightly. Maybe you know what you're stressed about now. Maybe add that in, right? Maybe I'm stressed about my job, or I'm stressed about something I have to do tomorrow. Then use those words, and you're kind of honing in on exactly where that stress is coming from with words. And then the tapping releases that energy from the nervous system.
I really like that you took out, I love and accept myself just as I am, or whatever that is, because it's almost like now I'm taking over for the body. So I'm now doing the healing. I'm showing, here's how I release this, here's how I heal my body. Because I think,
and it's accepting. It's this is how I'm feeling right now, and it's okay that I'm feeling this way.
Yeah. And that's just the acceptance, and then it's let the body do the rest.
Yes.
Because it will. Every time I think it's important to say too, the body does not want to keep this tension in. I visualize it for myself. I have smaller wounds. It's like a splinter, and you can just pop them out easily. Those are, simple ones. And then there's the deep ones inside that you can't see, and they fester. Like if you had a bullet, you got shot and it went inside your body, didn't come out, it would start to fester and form, a capsule around it, and it gets kind of funky in there. So it's like release those old ones too. And can you go, I've read, and it's happened to me as well, when I'm doing the tapping, sometimes I'll sneeze, violently, like 5 times in a row, or I'll yawn where I can't seem to stop yawning, or I'll cry, or I'll just laugh. Like the hysteric sounds like a crazy person laughing.
Isn't that great? That is the body giving us feedback that it's working,
Yes.
that something is shifting. And I love that about EFT. As an engineer, that was just so satisfying to know, because the body's giving you feedback. So it will yawn. People will yawn. Some people will burp a lot. Some people will get really tired that they just want to fall asleep. And that is your body giving you feedback that energy is releasing. So it's a great thing. And tears, if tears are flowing, this sounds like such a horrible thing to say, but if tears are flowing, keep using the words that will keep the tears flowing, because they will end. It's those words that are stored with the tears. So keep going and allow the tears to just end, because really they will. And what you were saying about the festering, I wanted to bring that up. Some of those deep wounds won't show up to begin with. You won't know they're there. You'll forget, like your car accident. You'll forget about them.
Yes.
But they are inside, and you really don't want to go to them straight away. They will show themselves as you do this work. I know one of the things that I tapped on for a long time, but not until I'd done a lot of work, I tapped on, I hate myself. And there are many people who are out there who will say, don't say that. You shouldn't say that. But if that's how you feel, tap on it, because it will shift and you'll realize, okay, those are just words. I hate myself. They're just words. And then there's nothing left. There's no energy left around the phrase, and it's just disappeared. So,
well, it's almost what you're doing is, at what point in time, and you thank goodness you don't have to go back and figure out, but at one point in time you had a faulty program. If you're using like a computer analogy, there's a few lines of that program for the computer that were wrong. And then now your whole being is functioning off a few lines of faulty programming. So it's this tapping can go in, and you don't have to find it, because your brain would never be able to function at that capacity, but your body will show what's next in its infinite wisdom. So it's like we, again, stop taking over what the body's naturally doing.
Right. And that's another great thing about EFT. You'll tap on something, and because it's all connected on the inside, a memory, like you said, a memory will pop up of something similar. And then you can work on that. And then another memory will pop up, and you can work on that. And that's how you can go very quickly back through to those early wounds and work on them. But only do it as your body shows you.
Right.
Except when I say that, that is the ideal way to do it. But I was so determined to change it. I wrote down everything and went through them one by one. So you can do it if you're willing to go through that.
Well, and again, honor your energy. Like, you're an engineer. So engineer brain would say, okay, we're going to do one thing at a time, and we're going to do it until it's fixed. And that works for you. So, honor your process. I'm more, creative, and I'll do it at a traffic light. And it just, because it's in that moment, or I'll pull over because something's coming out. That's just my process. It's like, show me what needs to be done. And I'm always, kind of on the go. That's the way I relax.
That's great. But I would say if someone is listening and they really, really want things to change, and things to change quickly, then perhaps do it that way, because then the shifts happen so fast that you can really believe in it more easily, because you can see things happening daily. So and
then I have noticed, once you start a process of healing, like once you start noticing, let's say you're going to buy a red car, you start to see red cars everywhere. So you start this process of, okay, I have this one trauma I'm going to work on. I know it's stored in my body. I'm going to release it. It creates a momentum, I think, of healing, so that other things can start to be untangled a little more easily. Then to have to go through and like hardcore, all right, there's that trauma. I got 753 more to go. Like, oh my goodness, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do all this. That's a lot. you know?
Yeah. But and some things start showing up, right? Things start moving faster once the universe knows you're willing to do it, you'll be
Yes.
shown more things. And the key to that is remember that it's healing and it's just stuck energy. So don't fall back into the, oh my God, this is happening, right? But take it, okay, this is happening. It's something else for me to work on. That's okay. Let me do that. And then come to the next thing. And it becomes fun. You actually, and I think in the spiritual community, people don't talk about this as much, and maybe they haven't experienced it as much as I have, but it becomes fun. And
Yes.
as you said, as within, so without. So as your awareness gets deeper, your awareness outside also gets deeper. So you start to understand why things are happening. You can see things more at an energetic level rather than a
Yeah.
whatever the other level is.
Yeah.
It's not, it's very different. It's a very different experience of life, and it's a greater depth to life. I think a lot of people these days, at least, there's a lot of youngsters who don't really think there's anything worth doing in life. But when you do go through this path, you realize there is so much depth to life.
Yeah.
Even like with sounds, with music, sound healing type things.
Yeah.
I can now feel music right through my body.
Yes.
Right inside my body. And before, all I could do was hearing with my ears.
Yeah.
Right. So imagine listening to someone talk, like a conversation. If you feel it at that deep level, it's going to be very different than just hearing it with your ears.
It just creates this divine richness.
Yes.
So that each moment then can become that blissful state, not to get stuck in the love and light, but you're experiencing that moment to the best of your potential as a being, instead of being puppeted and spending all of that energy holding on to trauma because you don't know, you haven't been given the tools to release it.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't talk about it in terms of love and light. I just talk about it in terms of peace.
Yeah.
I am at peace during the day. I wouldn't say all the time. I have one son who likes to do mountain biking, and those, I find what brings up emotion inside of me, and I work with it. But most of the time, I can be at peace regardless of what's happening, and that was not the case 10 years ago. Right? I was very tense, highly strung, emotional, and I am not now. And it's so fun to be in this new place.
I agree. It's just a richer experience that you can then create a momentum off of that as well. So, for me, I hike every day. I'm in Northern California, and the wildflowers are incredible. And I've always thought it was beautiful. But now when you find that peace, you can truly see the beauty, and it can be overwhelming. It's so magnificent. It's just, you can't believe everybody else isn't just crazy with look at these wildflowers and the clouds and the sky and the mud. And
I know, and I can feel into colors now. I can feel the peace in blue.
Yes.
And I didn't have that before.
Yeah.
And I know other people cannot do that from my experience. People see colors with their eyes, but if you can feel how colors make you feel as well, again, that's a depth of awareness and a depth to life that most of us don't know even exists.
But I think that's a tangible way to express fifth dimension, because you're now experiencing deeper dimensional levels of just the colors. Like, you look at the hill as I was hiking today, and it's grass, and there is some irises blooming. But when you're in a deeper understanding of that moment, it's the richness of colors. The grass is floating in the breeze like a wave, and the blossoms are attracting this butterfly, and that bee is coming in, and you're experiencing a deeper level to life.
Yes.
That then creates, like you said, that peace, so that you're not a hungry ghost saying, how can I make this better? And what do I need to, or numb a feeling, create a feeling, solve a feeling. It's just, you're in that dynamic harmony now with nature.
Yeah. You're open to actually feeling what you're experiencing right now, rather than feeling all that tension for those things that you need to do or things you haven't done, or the traumas from the past.
Exactly. Yes. And that is the why. That is why we do this. That is why you can go in and say, okay, let's start with an easy, like even if it's something just irritating, or your last memory of an irritation in traffic. I'm in the Bay Area, so that's easy to do. So you can start slow. I like that you recommend that. Just build that muscle, see how it works. Then go to something a little deeper, and then start to use your intuition. Say, okay, body, okay, being, show me the next thing to work on. And don't expect an answer right away either. You know, the body has its own wisdom, and it might pop into a dream. It might be 2 weeks later. It might be right in that moment, but just be open to hearing that answer come through you, not from you.
And remember, this is a kind of a key thing that a lot of people experience, and they don't realize what it's about. If you have resistance to doing it, if you know EFT, if this is something you want to try and do, but you have resistance to doing it, that itself is something that you can work with. You can tap on. You can tap with words. Wow. I don't want to do this. I really don't want to. I'm afraid of feeling those feelings. I'm afraid of bringing up my past. And that is the outer layer. Once you get rid of that resistance, then you're more open to actually doing the tapping work on the memories. But don't let that get by you, because that can stop you doing it.
Yes.
Right? If you have resistance, I don't want to do it, then you might not do it.
Yeah.
That resistance itself is something to look at.
And that's brilliant, because I think, we're such good saboteurs to our own healing. And so too, when you said that, you also know, I'm going to be releasing this trauma. It's going to take the flavor out of my addictions. That glass of wine isn't going to be so amazing anymore, or that whatever, shopping or whatever your drug of choice to numb out is, won't have any more flavor. You're going to be a different person. A peaceful person might just enjoy, a stroll through the neighborhood instead of whatever else, you were doing before. But that's the beauty of change. So you could do a tapping with your inner saboteur. Yeah.
I'm afraid of losing the taste of my wine, right? Whatever it is you're afraid of changing. Yes, you can tap on that fear.
Brilliant. I literally could talk to you all day. So I'm going to be respectful of your time. You have, in this hour, changed my life, because you put together so many different pieces. And I don't need to go out and buy anything. I don't need to spend a lot of money and read books and try and educate myself and make it challenging. It's right here. It's very simple. It's accessible. We all can tap. So absolutely. Where can people find you? How can they work with you if they are so inclined?
Well, I have a website, annhince.com. It's just my name. And you can contact me through there. I do have a book. You don't need to buy it, because I do give most of my information away for free on YouTube. So you can look me up on YouTube. Again, it's my name, at Ann Hince. Lots of videos on there. I'm putting out a short video each week. You can always talk to me in person at 11 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on a Tuesday. That's when I have a Zoom call, and anyone is welcome to join me there. And my book is called A Pathway to Insight, because that is what this is. I can see inside my body. So these are the steps to get to that place. And by the time this is out, I probably will have my workbook out, available on Amazon too, which just questions to write down all those traumas and all that programming from childhood, so that you can then work through those.
Okay, well, I'm going to get those 2 books excitedly, because you have an understanding of the nature of humans, and are able to pan out based on your trauma and help us. It's like we all have to do the work. Ann's not going to come to your house and help tap for you.
Right.
And you wouldn't want her to, because then it's not going to work. When we forge that path ourselves, then it is that true healing. we've engaged with our soul and our heart and our spirit. Everything is now working in harmony for that.
Thank you. You've got it. That's great. I love that.
Yeah, but it takes that perseverance, and we're not given the instructions. So when you have those instructions, then you don't have to spend 50 years of your life dealing with stuck trauma, so that you can finally get onto what your gifts are to share with the world. You can start sharing them now. And I'll just leave, I don't think I've shared this with the audience before, but I had a patient that I started working with when he was 92. And he was suffering from PTSD from being in World War II, to the point where he really couldn't even say the word World War II. But he was so inflamed. I thought, what can I do to help this guy? He changed his diet, and that helped a little bit. He got the edema down, the swelling, and was able to go home, but he was still suffering from so much trauma and problems and inflammation. And I offered to do a tapping session with him. And once he did that, he felt a relief for the first time. And he said 62 years he had been holding down that beach ball. And as he started progressing, he would watch YouTube videos. He liked to follow along with somebody, and he would do those 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, to the point where then he was able to release that trauma, that stored trauma, and more. I think more gets released once you break the seal, and was able to live at home independently until he was 97, when he passed away.
Wow, I got chills.
So it's never too late either.
Right.
To be in that lit up state and heal.
Yeah, I believe it's actually what Jesus said, to die before you die. This is releasing that tension that it's going to release when we die anyway, but why not do it now?
That's so funny. I wrote last night, I said, in the end, I work hospice. In the end, when you transcend, you have to release everything. You have to forgive everyone and everything and yourself. So why not do it now in this moment, so you can feel the benefits of that?
Absolutely. Which reminds me, if you're on YouTube, feel free to follow me on YouTube. I mean Facebook when I say that. Okay. Because I write those kind of things. I try and explain some of those things. We hear some of those quotes, we see them. I try and explain them so people can understand them at a deeper level.
You have a gift for that, because I think it's so easy to look at these memes and parrot them back to other people, but not truly understanding what they mean. And I find that too. I like to explain things, because it's not that, I don't think anyone's above anyone else. There's no hierarchy. I might have figured things out because of my experiences that I can maybe help explain in a different way. But this information should be accessible to everyone, especially the way you're explaining it.
Thank you. I mean, it took doing the work to understand this, right? I did not understand it 10 years ago. But as our awareness expands, so does our understanding and our ability, I suppose, to explain it.
Amen to that, my sister. And Ann Hince, all the links for her books, the workbook, everything will be in the show notes. So it's just one click away, probably right down there right now. Thank you so much for your time. I like to end with 3 action steps somebody could do today to start this process of healing their body from within.
The first one is to start noticing during the day how you're feeling, right? It takes that noticing. That's a first step always, to become aware of, oh, I'm feeling angry now. Oh, I'm feeling frustrated now. Whatever. That's always the first step. Then I recommend people learn EFT. It's very easy to do. So that would be a second step, actually learning it. I have a YouTube video on EFT. I think it's 6 minutes. It's not very long. Okay. And then start using it during the day when you notice how you're feeling. And you can just go to the bathroom, right? If you can't do it, if you're at work or something, you can't do it right then, when next time you go to the bathroom, tap, just tap while you're there on it so that you're not storing more.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and also I think, I initially, when I would tap, I would feel kind of embarrassed about it. And now I just do it and people will engage with me. And it gives me an opening for a conversation like, hey, this worked for me. And it's simple. You want to do a round. And even when you show other people, like I'll do a round with patients. It helps you too.
Yes. Oh, it does. Yeah. And I did it once on a baby that was screaming on an airplane. And you know how people hate that. And I swapped places to get next to the baby. And then I asked the mother if I could just tap on her baby. And I tapped a couple of rounds and he fell asleep in his mother's arms. And you could feel the whole airplane relax. It was so great.
That's brilliant, beautiful. I love it. That's how it, these simple things. And that's what this whole show is about. And thank you so much for lighting up this hour and 20 minutes for us, our audience. I'm so grateful to you and all
Thank
of
you.
done.
Such a great conversation. It was really good. Thank you.
Thank you so much.